The Manger Mouse by Jane Tyson Clement, a Christmas story. The little mouse huddled outside the kitchen door. The black night was pierced with stars, but he couldn't see them. He could only feel the chill of the wind and his loneliness, and he didn't know where to go or what to do. He was so small, his eyes were scarcely open. His soft gray coat was rumpled and he trembled. He had no mother, no brothers and sisters. The cat had got them all, finding their nest in a heap of rags behind a water jug, but he had squeezed into a crack in the wall and the cat had missed him. He still felt the terror whenever he thought of it. But that was a long time ago, and he had been hiding, scuttling from place to place, so hungry he was weak with it. The noises all about him made him tremble. Camel bells, shouts, the bleating of goats, the barking of dogs, rude comments from the donkeys in the yard. He had known none of this. He had never been out of the nest where his mother had cared for all her young, teaching them to wash themselves, watching for every intruder, warning them of dangers, and of the cat. And the owl at night, she said, stay by the walls lest you be seen, and keep clean, so you will give no scent. And she had licked them and taught them to wash their whiskers with their paws behind their ears and all over, even their little long tails. But that was long ago, and now he was lost and alone. There were heavy steps on the other side of the door, and he jumped, ducking into the nearest opening, the entrance to the cooling room. A low pan of milk had been left to sour on a bench. Following his nose, he ran up the bench and put his forepaws on the sill of the pan and stuck his pointed face in, and he drank and drank. Then a lantern flashed and he leaped straight into the pan and crawled out all milk to run wildly along the bench, down the other side, along the far wall, through a doorway, and there he was. Had he known it? In the stable. There it was suddenly quiet. He sat, a milky little mess, against the wall inside the door. His heart beat wildly, and he trembled all over. And still there was a quietness and a strange light, and he could see. On the far side, the oxen stood in their stalls, and next to them, the sleepy goats had folded their legs and lain down. Overhead, the doves sat in a row on the rafters. He had trouble seeing them. His eyes were so stuck up with milk, but he could make out white forms in the dark. Doves, his mother had said, doves did not need to be feared. At the back of the stable, there was an empty stall, freshly filled with hay, and a manger. He wondered if there was feed in it, but for the moment he was all stiff from the dry milk. Frantically, he began to wash himself, little paws sweeping down over his head, feet wildly scratching to free the sticky tufts of fur, tongue and teeth working on the matted white of his belly, all to no avail. But he must. Didn't hear at first the humans coming in the door, and the slow step of a tired donkey. It was the sudden brightness that stopped his frantic efforts, and he froze in his alarm, huddling against the wall. It was a woman and a man, and another with a loud, familiar voice saying, "This is all I can offer." The man answered softly. Then the lantern was hung on a hook on a beam. The donkey was tethered with the goats, who made no comments for once. The woman sank onto a bed of straw in the empty stall after the man spread out his cloak for her. He said in a low voice he was going to fetch water and some supper, and he went out into the night. Now the quietness was filled with brightness, not the lantern, something else. And it didn't glare or threaten. It did not taste of danger, but of peace. The doves cooed softly now, and the hens ruffled their feathers, while the rooster stood up on his perch and kept his silence. This was no dawn light, he knew. This was starlight, though the most astonishing starlight he had ever seen. Then the man came back, and the mouse huddled against the wall, exhausted by his efforts to clean himself, strangely at peace, and after a while he slept, his head tucked down and his tail curled around him, looking like a little sticky burr rather than a soft mouse, and smelling of goat's milk. When he awoke, he did not know where he was. It was as bright as day, and yet the light was no daylight. The animals were all awake. The doves peered down from their perch. The hens for once were silent and cocked their heads to see better. The rooster stood guard right above the stall where the woman lay. The goats were all kneeling, and so were the oxen. And there was a strange crying sound, sad yet sweet. It was a new baby, the longed-for child, and the creatures knew it, even if the world did not. A big moth fluttered in to settle on the woman's shoulder. She stirred and gave the child to the man. He folded him tenderly against him and then laid him in the manger. The owl floated in on silent wings and found a watching place above the oxen. No one flinched. No one rushed to hide. No one feared. Then the archway was full of shepherds. The lady smiled. The man beckoned, and they came to see the child. They laid bread and cheese and a woolly fleece beneath the manger. They left, quiet as they had come, though you could hear their fading footsteps outside. When they all had gone, a deep hush fell. The light winked down a little. Then the mouse looked around. Beside him sat the cat. The cat was not looking at him. The cat was looking at the manger where the baby lay. The mouse did not even feel a quiver of fear. He looked back at the manger. He looked again at the cat. He looked at the owl in the rafters, and he thought, I'm not afraid. Finally, the cat spoke. Why were we chosen to witness this? Out of all our kind, why were we chosen You from the race of mice, I from the feline. I am cursed with the need to kill in order to live, and you to be hunted all your days. Yet here we witness the dawn of a new paradise. The mouse crouched, speechless, beside the cat. He could not put in great words all that crowded his heart. Finally he said, I would like to see the baby, but I am all stuck up with goat's milk. I'm sure I smell awful, and I cannot clean myself. The cat turned his head and looked at him. Then he spoke very softly and tenderly. Would you grant me the privilege of cleaning you, O mouse? It would cleanse me a little of my guilt. And while I don't favor goat's milk, I would gladly clean you up. The mouse crept around in front of the cat. He looked at him fearlessly, then he bowed his head meekly and submitted. With his rasping tongue, the cat began to lick gently. The little mouse toppled left and right under the licks. The cat laid a soft paw on the back of the mouse to steady him and worked his way carefully all the way to the end of the little long tail. Then the mouse fluffed up his fur, and the cat washed his own face and paws. At last they were done. They sat side by side against the wall, exhausted. Then together they moved right across the floor to the manger. The cat made one graceful leap to the foot where he stood, staring in awe at the child. The mouse scurried up at the end and sat beside the cat, and they both looked and looked. They were there when the kings came, but they did not know it. They were there all night, till finally the cock, not to be fooled by anything, knew that the everyday dawn had come and filled the stable with his crowing. That cock is a conceited fellow, said the cat as they climbed down together. They went off to the same place by the wall and sat in silence for a long time. You look and smell much better, said the cat. Thank you, said the mouse. Where are you going to live? Asked the cat. I don't know. I've hardly begun, said the mouse. May I make a suggestion? Said the cat. Please, said the mouse. That manger, said the cat. If you would set up your home in or near that manger, then never, ever would the old instinct seize me and the old power overcome me. Dear mouse, I bear guilt enough. In this place, by that manger, you will be safe. That I promise. I will do that gladly, said the mouse. Then he was quiet for a moment. Finally he said, I am a small mouse and very young. But what we have seen, we have seen. Does it not speak of a day to come, when the dawn breaks and a new time is born, and we need not fear? Is there not even waiting for us? Yes, said the cat. Of that, I am sure. Merry Christmas to you, to your families, and to all the cats, the mice, the dogs, the hamsters, and whoever else lives in your house.